right? And actually one of the reasons I really chose today to focus a lot, we're going to do some deep neck and jaw opening, is because we're going to move on to the other very key anatomy points of breathing, which is the nose and the sinus passages. And if all this is tight and gummed up, then we kind of restrict a lot that goes on in here as well. Plus, we're just triggering the nervous system in a really negative way over, and it's just so hard to get out of that loop. So we're going to work on kind of dialing that down through the muscles. And it could be that as we get more release through here and through the jaw and the sinuses, you might feel a corresponding release through the belly and through the pelvis. Very often, people with low back pain or hip pain, it comes from one of their very uppermost vertebrae being out of alignment. I mean, it is so intensely connected. And so, yeah, really working on opening this up, not just because we're moving on to nose and sinuses and all of that, but the effect that it has on the vagus nerve and on the rest of the diaphragms is pretty major. So what a lot of people don't realize is that the jaw, this TMJ muscle here, and I want you guys to actually put 2 fingers. So if you go right in front of this, I don't know what you call this part of the ear, but that cute little bump there, go in front of it and get your 2 fingers here and then open and close your mouth. So maybe, so fingers kind of, so Alexander, you're this way. Yeah, let's bring the fingers this way. Yeah, open and close. First of all, does anyone have a popping sound? Any popping? Yeah. And the other thing to notice, are they behaving differently? Does one open more than the other? Yeah. And then I don't know if you can see yourself, but some of you, the chin goes one direction or the other, right? So then we can really tell that one, like it's different. Yeah. We don't want it to be different. So we want them to, first of all, not pop, not make a bunch of sounds, and actually open and close, up and down. It's a fast, and even if you walk your hand, like just again, because we want to get to know the anatomy, walk your hand up a little higher, open and close, and what you'll feel is you'll find a spot where you can actually feel that jawbone. I wish I had a skeleton here, but let's just say this is my here, and this is my jawbone. It actually kind of unhinges and then slides back into place. Can you feel that on yourself a bit? Yeah. Okay. So know that the goal is to be able to get this guy to be operating the same, chin not going one way or the other way, no popping. Yeah. And I'm going to show you some things. We're going to talk to the muscles leading up to this area. And then I'll show you a fun trick where we're going to look absolutely absurd, but you might actually get amazing nasal drainage, actually. Yeah. Back to anatomy. So here we are at our collarbone, and we've learned that the lungs end just above the collarbone. And then we've got all these muscles I've talked about before, the sternocleidomastoids. So I'm going to make mine pop up here. Do you see this guy? It runs from the tip of the front of the collarbone, and it's this big fat sausage here that goes all the way up to the base of the skull. So there are several ways to work this. Some people talk about doing this kind of pinch and roll, and you might find trigger points this way, kind of pinching and rolling this guy. I also like to take just these knuckles here and run them up the whole length. And you can find the pressure that feels right for you. So knowing that if it's so hard that you feel your tongue harden or your eyes harden, that's no good. If you kind of catch your breath. Remember, less is very often more through here. But I want you to just get to really know this muscle, because on a lot of us, all the phone stuff, all the looking down, it's shortening this muscle, which is just keeping us into a forward head posture. So we really need to get this guy in particular, the sternocleidomastoid muscle, long. No kinks, no nothing. And remember, we've been learning about how fascia, getting that part long and soft, really helps us then move into the muscles better. And let's just get both sides before we move on to all the other muscles that we have to deal with through here. Is anyone feeling a different side to side much, or? Oh, I always find it gets way more interesting on me anyway, the closer to the skull I get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, let's see, I want to make sure you guys can see this. There is, if you go right, so here's the sternocleidomastoid, and then you go right in about here, and you might find something that feels almost like nervy, right? If you feel a nervy thing, that is a nerve, so let's back off of that. That's your vagus nerve, very important one. So we don't want to go on the nerves. We're going to go past the nerve, and then we're going to start to run up. You're going to find one of these scalene muscles, and on a lot of us, it feels like a hard rod, like a piece of metal living in there, right? We don't want metal in our neck. So let's just, again, go past the nerve, find this guy, and you can pick which hand, which fingers, which way to run this. But we're going to go with the muscle, and we're going to run all the way up to this area up in here again. So these are all muscles that are leading to the TMJ, this joint area that is so important. And we can get this side as well. Oh, I swear to God, I've touched some people's in here, and it seriously feels like a rock or a piece of metal. You might even find in here that it radiates down through your arm. And we have talked, I'm sure, and if you've watched any of my videos on the neck and shoulders, about the importance of keeping long bicep muscles. And this is where the connection points are. So if you're feeling through here, anything going down into your arm, this is why we want to keep long arms too. Okay. And then moving along, we've got another muscle. So keep following your collarbone. And you're going to go, so we've got sternocleidomastoid, we've got one of these scalenes, and then there's a guy that connects to the top of the shoulder here and runs up. This is where a lot of us have a bunch of gunk.
Mm-hmm.
Again, up here into this same area, but now it's just like a little bit further behind the ear. So most of the ones we were on before were connecting in here. Now we're getting into this area. Holy moly. And I know, so some people that have sinus flow issues and a lot of tightness in the eustachian tubes, even just working in this neck area, they can start to get a sinus, like release through the sinuses. You might start noticing some postnasal drip happening or something. Okay. Now I'm going to show you guys something kind of fun and weird. So I have to turn my back to you. Okay. So if you go to the nape of the neck, so can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right. So these little muscles here are the occiput muscles, these sweet, sweet overused muscles running along the base of the skull. If you go right about here, so the fingers aren't quite touching, but they're close. push in. You'll have this area. Open your eyeballs wide and look right and left. Can you feel those muscles moving?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, crazy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those muscles are connected to our eyes. And in the era of us constantly focusing on screens, constantly we have kind of hard eyes, we can actually start to soothe the eyes by working on this area in the very back of the neck. And I want to encourage you, ladies, to, and we might even have time to do it, these occiput muscles, so all the ones along here, this ridge between the skull and the neck, if you can actually get to the point where you can put your fingers under, like almost like you're touching under your skull, you can get a lot of good relief and release. It's easier for most of us to do when we are resting on a cushion, like are lying down and resting on the cushion. So if we have time for that, we will do it. But let us continue, because what the main event is getting this jaw released, and the sinuses a little bit too. So let's follow this muscle up again on both sides. Go all the way up, right up behind the ear. Good. And up into the skull area. And then we're going to go up through here, right on up past the front of the ear, all the way up into the temple area. And then again up into the head. So there are, you know how there are these like regions of the skull, and then there are muscles. We actually have quite a few muscles all through here. Those can sometimes get a little bit knotty too. So sometimes those tension headaches are coming from tightness all through these guys, but know that they're fully connected to the neck too, right? So sometimes it's not quite enough. Hello, Ms. Montgomery, welcome. Get your massage oil out, girl. We're rubbing ourselves. So if you have one of those tension headaches and you need to work those out, don't forget how fully connected they are through here, especially running right up through this highway through the back of the ear. And this, by the way, is where the vagus nerve starts to come out. So soothing this area, like in the evening, is a nice thing to do, or if we're feeling stressed, this line here. So remember how we felt it being kind of nervy in here? That's this same area. Okay, so some of you might feel kind of like almost like a hot spot or a nugget or something up in this area. I know several people do. And again, that's a great place if you're getting a tension headache to just explore those areas. Okay. Now, you guys can keep doing that. I'm going to show you the next thing we're going to do. I will be the one to like look absurd first. So, but if you guys have found any good spots to keep massaging, you can do that while you watch me. So we felt exactly where the TMJ is, right? Where that joint is. So this is the top of the jawbone, the lower jawbone. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open the jaw as wide as we can. So ideally we want to get at least 3 fingers in our mouth. If we can't do that, just know that that's a good goal. And then jaw way over one side and way over the other side. And just notice, does one side feel a lot like more stretchy? Was one side tighter than the other? For those of you that had one, when you open and closed your mouth and you saw that your chin was going off to one side, I would say chances are, all right, now you can start to correct that by really leaning into the side that feels tighter and get it opened up. And you can even, do you see how I'm kind of got my chin way over here and then I'm opening and closing? And sometimes even having your hand on here helps. Right. And then you want to be able to kind of go back and forth, faster, slower, faster. But eventually it should, we want it to feel like a nice glide, not like a clunk, 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 chunk, you know what I mean? Like, so that eventually it just becomes an easy glide side to side. One side does not feel tighter than the other. Good. And speaking of cars, the car is when I find that my jaw is hardening and I have to like kind of unhinge that thing because it's, yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to talk you through it's what I'm going to do next because I can't really talk while doing it. So this is because we've opened up, I think, a lot of these muscles, hopefully enough. And doing this work has kind of helped loosen up the muscles in the jaw a bit. Now we're going to talk directly to the eustachian tube and the sinuses because we have enough mobility, a little movement in the jaw. So the eustachian tube, right? Just imagine a line straight from the ear through to directly to the sinuses. Very often when there's like tinnitus, the ringing in the ears, or like that eardrum feels constantly clogged, or even when sometimes you get dizziness because there's so much tightness in this area, this is going to be a great release for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the lower part of that joint, right? So you now know where that joint is. Yeah. So I'm going to squeeze the lower part of it and pull it forward. And then I'm going to flare my nostrils out to try to make my sinuses big. It looks ridiculous, and we're going to hold it for like 30 seconds and just see what happens. So we're squeezing that lower jawbone just below that joint, pulling it forward. And you might even pull it kind of forward. And if you found one side was tighter than the other, kind of, pull it more towards what you know is center. And then let's flare our nostrils and we're going to hang out here. Sarah's a doubter. Good. And then we can release.